We're going to begin with some brief introductions in a moment, but before we do that, I do want to alert everyone that our workshop is being recorded, and we do that so that we can post it on our Innovation Pathways Technical Assistance website after the fact so that it's accessible to you. And that also means that there are closed captions available live during this workshop. So if you would like to use Otter for live closed captioning, just go to that live button on the top left corner of your screen and click the small down arrow in order to see what the real-time captioning options are. So to let you know who is here today from the Innovation Pathways team, some brief introductions. My name is Annie Leonard, and I am the lead consultant at the Center for Collaborative Education, supporting Innovation Pathways. And also joining me from the Center for Collaborative Education today is my colleague, Allison. And Allison is here for tech support, so please feel free to send a chat message to her if you're having any technical issues that we can help with. And now I'll pass to my colleague, Jennifer Gwatkin from DESE, to introduce herself and any DESE folks who are here.
Great. Thank you, Annie. I think that most of you, by this point, know me. I'm Jennifer Gwatkin. I'm the Innovation Pathways lead, as Annie said, for the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education. And I know that my colleague, Annette, from the Early College team at DESE is on. I'm scrolling down to see if anybody else from DESE is here. I think that might be it at this point, but glad Annette is here, and I'll let you know if anybody else from DESE joins. Thank you for being here today. We have a great workshop planned, and what a robust crew. I think we had 89 folks register, which is fantastic. Let's see if they all show up.
Yeah, it's really amazing to see our community growing. So just a little bit of information about the Center for Collaborative Education before we dive into Innovation Pathways content. So CCE is a national organization committed to working with schools, districts, and communities to increase educational equity so that students succeed and communities thrive. And CCE has been working with DESE to provide technical assistance for the Innovation Pathways program for more than 3 years. And it's really a privilege to be in partnership with DESE and all of the schools doing this good work. So for our workshop today, our focus is going to be on building familiarity with Innovation Pathways tools that support successful program design. And as part of that, we also want to give you opportunities to engage in collaborative design work focused on problems of practice with your Innovation Pathways peers. And as always, we want to give you opportunities to build connections across our network that will support your ongoing work on your pathways. So our agenda is going to be welcome and connections, which we are working on now. Then we're going to have an opportunity in a first breakout discussion for you to connect with a small number of peers to identify some of the priorities and some of the challenges that you may be encountering in your Innovation Pathways work. Then we'll come back together and spend some time looking at available tools in our toolkit that support the Innovation Pathways design process. And then we'll have an opportunity to return to breakout discussions, and those will be self-selected and designed around the problems of practice that you identify today as areas of interest and priority for you. There will also be a breakout option for those of you who are in the early stages and would most benefit from help with the Part A application process. We'll hopefully have some time for open discussion before we close out. Especially for the time that we're going to be spending in breakouts today, we want to offer some community agreements that will support us in doing effective work together in our conversation time, in our group time. So I'll just stay quiet for a moment and give you an opportunity to take a look at the norms or community agreements that we are offering, and consider them. If you have a suggestion for a revision or an addition, feel free to offer that in the chat. If you want to offer an actual video thumb up or a thumbs up emoji, feel free to do that. But let's just take a moment to review those proposed community agreements. And I want to give credit that this set of norms adapted for today is grounded in the work of Glenn Singleton. Also to set the stage for today, we want to acknowledge our current situation, and that while we all may have returned to school, that doesn't mean that things have returned to normal. We are still contending in many ways with academic, programmatic, and personal disruptions related to the pandemic. We may be a lot more comfortable functioning in virtual learning settings than we were 3 years ago. But I think we've also gained deep appreciation for the kinds of learning that can't happen remotely, including the kinds of engaging and hands-on learning that is possible in innovation pathways. And speaking of those pathways and the reason we're all here, which is to do great things for students, we want to begin our time today with an opportunity to connect directly to the perspectives of some actual innovation pathways students. So what you see on your screen are 3 quotes from students who have participated in Pathways. And we'd like you to read those and consider for a few moments what resonates with you among those quotes. If there is a single word or a brief phrase that is most meaningful to you, maybe pop that word or phrase into the chat and say a little bit about why that word or phrase is meaningful to you.
I'm loving what I'm seeing in the chat.
Mm-hmm.
Relationships. Yeah, skating confines really stood out to me too.
And that idea of students having kind of a peer support network. So feel free to keep going on that and taking inspiration from what you're seeing in the chat from other attendees today. And I'm going to pass now over to Jennifer, and she's going to take a little bit of time to review some of the current data about our pathways. So we're going to say goodbye to those words from students and shift into some slides about the pathways. Jennifer.
Yeah, thank you. Actually, I wanted to comment, those quotes came from you guys. We did an all call for some thoughts are from students back in, I think it was the winter of this last year. We're developing the Innovation Pathways annual report, which I'm working on getting web readied and posted to the IP DESE site. So you will get to see those again, posted very soon. So current landscape of Innovation Pathways. Some of you have been involved from the beginning. Mike Rubin, I shout you out here as an IP peer ambassador and a member of the initial crop of 7 schools that got the designation back in 2018. But today, as of the fall of 2022, we have 60 schools across the Commonwealth participating. They're from 51 districts, 148 pathways, 27 of which were brand new or are brand new and launching this fall. So we are looking at over 4,000 students being reached through Innovation Pathways programming. Very exciting. And all designee schools have completed the MyCap training, which is required for Innovation Pathways. A reminder that Innovation Pathways are actually oriented around industry sectors that are high skills, high demand in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. They're advanced manufacturing, business and finance, environmental and life sciences, healthcare and social assistance, and information. You can find more about these on the, actually, if you look up the blueprinting process that the Executive Office of Education did, it's a treasure trove of information. And then as you can see here, we have a pretty good spread of pathways. Healthcare and social assistance is in the lead with 38, followed by manufacturing and close second. Nice distribution, and 15 of the 16 Mass Hire boards are involved in Innovation Pathways.
Thank you for that, Jennifer, for keeping us up to date and setting us up for our first round of small group discussions for this morning's workshop. So what is going to happen in a moment is you are going to be placed into a breakout group. So these are not self-select. You're going to be randomly mixed with probably 4 or 5 colleagues into a small group for 3 rounds of conversation. And our suggestion is that you take each of these prompts as a round. So the first round of conversation is introductions, your name, role, and school affiliation. The second round is for a brief description of where you are in the pathways process and what your priorities are for work this year based on where you are in the process. And then in the third round, we'd like you to turn to something that's, keeping you up at night. What are the pressing challenges you're encountering or dilemmas that you're facing in your Innovation Pathways work? And as I mentioned, we're going to use those challenges later to design breakout groups. So what we would like you to do is use the Padlet, and the link to that Padlet is going to show up in your chat. And on the Padlet, we'd like you to share just from the third round, your dilemmas or challenges. So just a quick reminder about Padlet, that there is a plus sign on the screen, or you can double click on the screen to start a post. You can give it a title and then shift down into the text box space and type into that. And when you get in there, you will see a sample post that I put in just to give you an idea what a Padlet post can look like. So those are going to be our breakout conversations. And we're going to go about 15 minutes in those breakouts. If we need to shorten the time a tiny bit, we'll send out a warning to let you know when closing time is coming. And we hope you have, don't be shy, we hope you have a really robust conversation with your peers in those groups.
Welcome back. It was exciting to see so much activity in the Padlet.
Yeah, welcome back to the room, everybody. We're really looking forward to getting you into those groups to have more in-depth conversation about your challenges. So our behind the scenes team is working on getting that set up. And while that's happening, we are going to take a few minutes to review some of the processes and tools that are available to you to support designing high quality pathways. This will be an introduction for some and a refresher for others. But we want to remind you that these tools that are all available on our technical assistance website in the toolkit are intended to support capacity building in the areas of the guiding principles for innovation pathways. So I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the processes and tools in our toolkit. The toolkit itself is not exhaustive, and it's but it can be exhausting. There's a lot there, and so we want to say that it's not intended that every team would make use of every resource shared in the toolkit. Rather, what we hope is that you'll find there resources that you can make use of to support your own needs and to customize the process and the tools according to your school's context and the pathways context, where you are in the design cycle of planning, implementation, and improvement. So my colleague will be sharing a couple of links as I highlight a few of the important resources that you can find in the toolkit. The toolkit itself is linked on this slide. I'll be focusing in on section 3 of the toolkit, and that is where there are resources that are intended to guide teams through the process of pathway development in the 4-part cycle that's laid out on this slide. For example, for teams that are earlier in the process, there are resources in the building a vision category in section 3, and those will help you think expansively about your pathway and about the community that the pathway will serve. For example, there's a tool called Building an Inclusive Team, which is an action planner, and then an individual and group learning plan tool that might serve you in those early stages of your design process. For teams who are deeper into the design work, there is a self-assessment tool that was created to allow planning teams to self-evaluate where you are in the program design process. That tool is organized around our 5 guiding principles, and under each principle, the tool asks you to self-assess whether you are initiating practice, developing practice, or established sustained practice. There are descriptors that you can use as a benchmark, and also a place to list evidence. So I know pathway evaluation is something that there are folks interested in today, and that tool might be a fit for you. There's also a design and implementation reflection tool that doesn't take a rubric format, but rather has a set of questions pertaining to each principle to encourage critical reflection on your design and implementation decisions in your pathway. And then I also want to point you to the Building for Equity Reflection Guide. This also provides questions to support critical reflection on design and implementation, but with a particular focus on having an equity-minded design process. We always want to remind you of the FAQ guide in our toolkit. This is a resource which we update continuously. It currently provides answers to nearly 100 recurring questions that have surfaced in our learning community over the past several years. And we will add to it as new questions surface. So please know that that is something that is there for your resources. It also, in section 4 of the toolkit, is a place that you can find school-specific examples where schools have shared materials that they've used, case studies, so that you don't have to reinvent the wheel. And we're always happy to add resources that you have found valuable to this section of the toolkit. So wherever you are in the design process, there are tools that can be used to facilitate intentional reflection, identification of next steps, look for strategies for addressing dilemmas, to strengthen your pathways work. So because the toolkit is so full, we want to now take 5 minutes of quiet time to enable you to look at some of the tools on your own. So please choose just a couple of tools to review in depth during this time. If it's helpful for your concentration to turn your camera off to do this, please do so. But consider what your own priorities and situation are. For example, if you have new team members joining your IP team, which tool might be a helpful one to choose to use now? If you're thinking about student recruitment or thinking about student retention, which tool might be most helpful and why? Or if external partnerships with employers or intermediary organizations are a big priority for you, which tool might be more helpful and why? So we'll go quiet from 9:40 to about 9:45, and then come back to set up our next round of breakouts. All right, hopefully those 5 minutes enabled you to take a look at some tools that might be of use to you. And what we want to do now is get ready to offer you some choices, 10 choices of problems of practice to connect with peers and dig into dialogue about those areas that you expressed interest in the Padlet. So in order to do that, we want to set up the groups. So for new applicants, if what you would benefit the most from is support on the Part A application process, and a chance to do some question and answers with Jennifer and myself, then you can stay in the main room, and that will be our topic in the main room. If you are a designee, then there are going to be 10 choices defined around problems of practice that you identified. And that can be something that you choose to go to with members of your school-based team, or if it makes sense to spread out across problem of practice breakout rooms, that's also fine. Those topics will come up in the chat. And in addition to the topics for the breakout rooms, we're also going to provide you each problem of practice breakout group with its own Google Doc to enable you to self-facilitate your group's work and document your group's work. So this will be an important resource, not just for during today's workshop, but also beyond today. And those links will all get posted in the chat. So I just want to say a few words about what you will find in those Google Docs. Again, these are going to be set up in rounds, and this time there are 4 rounds. So the Google Doc will guide you through identifying some roles for members of your group to take up. There may be variations in size of these groups because they are self-selecting. We're hoping that there will be no larger than about 8 people to really enable everyone to have opportunities for airtime and discussion in the groups. So the rounds that you are going to go through in your problem of practice group are first a round where you are describing the problem of practice. How is it manifesting for you in your own context? Then you're going to do a round that focuses on trying to name underlying or root causes for the problem of practice. The next round focuses on identifying resources and allies that can assist in addressing that problem of practice. And then the final round will be where you move into identifying strategies and solutions for addressing the problem of practice. So the idea is to take these developmentally designed questions through the rounds rather than kind of leaping into the problem solving mode, which is definitely human nature. So these rounds will slow things down a little to ensure real understanding develops before you begin talking strategies and solutions. I also want to say, in terms of choosing your problem of practice, that breakout rooms can be opportunities for getting support and giving support. So if you're really struggling, think about choosing a topic that you need the most help with. And you could also think about if you've been very successful on a particular topic, choosing that breakout room so you could share insights with colleagues. We're going to have you for about 30 minutes, perhaps even a little bit longer will be available in these breakout today, but at minimum 30 minutes so that everybody can really engage in some deep discussion. And we'll as I said, send out some warnings about time, reminders about moving through the rounds, and then let you know exactly how long you'll actually have out there with your group. So I think we are ready to do the sharing process, which is going to be, it's going to take a minute. Due to the existence of 10 exciting problem of practice topics to choose from. And feel free to ask for help if you are having difficulty self-selecting into a room. We can help with that. Welcome back, everybody. We hope that you really had ample time to dig deep on those problems of practice, and we are looking forward to checking out what turned up in your Google Doc. But if there is something that is still on your mind, a lingering question about the problem of practice, please feel free to pop that in the chat now so that after our workshop, we can follow up with individual questions. And we're going to move into closing phases of today's workshop shortly. So as part of reflecting on this workshop, but importantly, thinking about how to turn your learning from today into action steps, we would invite you to share an action step that you are committed to taking for your Innovation Pathways process after today's workshop. If you want to pop that into the chat, we would love to hear what your action steps are going to be. These are great, and they're going to help us continue to figure out how to provide the best possible technical assistance for you in this work. So thank you for all of those. I'm also now going to put up some reminders about how to stay current in your information about our toolkit and resources, but also about upcoming events and how to register for them. So on our Innovation Pathways Technical Assistance website, I would point you to the Events and Registration tab. And currently there, you will find a link where you can register and submit questions for office hours that Jennifer and I will be,
and it might have just been,
will be holding. Those office hours are on October 24th from 8:30 to 11:30 a.m. You can sign up for a slot to get support in whatever it is that you are working on right now. We also have 2 events upcoming in the month of November, and those will be added. More information next week will be added on those and how to register for them. So there will be a webinar on November 2nd, Building and Sustaining Strong Partnerships, and that will include employer partnerships as well as other intermediary partners. And it will feature contributions from 2 of our peer ambassadors who are experienced Innovation Pathways innovators, focusing in on external partnerships from 2 to 3 p.m. on the 2nd of November. And then on the 17th of November, we're going to hold our first program spotlight for this year, also with the assistance of one of our peer ambassadors. So watch your email and watch the website to learn who is going to be featured in that program spotlight. we're excited about these events and also about PLCs, which are another way that you can connect with people in this network. So the plans for those will also come to you both via email, and they'll appear on our technical assistance website soon. And we really hope that you'll take advantage of as many of these offerings as are helpful to you to advance your work on innovation pathways. Every time we hold an event, we ask for you to complete a survey. And it's really great if you can do this while the experience is fresh. We need to hear from you in order to plan our events and improve our events and support to meet your needs. So the link that's on this slide will also appear in the chat. And we would love for you to complete the brief survey about your experience in today's workshop. We're going to get ready to wrap up, but we do have a few minutes more available in our scheduled time for today's workshop. So again, we're monitoring the chat and we're going to stay here if someone wants to unmute and bring up a question. So to close out the formal part of the workshop, I want to thank my colleague Allison for her support. Thank Jennifer for her presentations and addressing the questions of members of today's attendees. And thank you all for being here. We really appreciate the work that you're doing to advance pathways in your school communities. Thank you very much.
Thank you all.